So let's now do some platform shopping and figure out how we're going to apply all of this knowledge to actually find a Google optimized alternative. So I mentioned there's dozens of tools out there, and normally to figure out what tool you would need, you'd need to figure out the features that you want, determine how much you're willing to pay for these features, because the more features you want, the more they're probably going to cost you. Look at all the platform websites, decipher their pricing charts, which are not easy to do, compare charts, go back and forth, and then probably book or demos or start free trials. So this process is a whole lot of work. And what makes it even more challenging is that a lot of the platforms don't even have pricing charts to begin with. So you just have to start by requesting a demo. And then on top of that, pricing charts that are available are really confusing. Some of them are deceptive, and it makes getting a clear picture of what you need really, really hard to do. But I'm here to help you through some of this. And over the next few minutes, we're going to go through some of the sample platform pricing charts. We'll talk about the most useful features to consider, discuss pricing, and I'm going to point out some of the dark patterns and things, persuasive tactics that are being used, so you can spot them and avoid them for yourself. All right, we're ready to go. Let's dig in. When you're trying to decide on an optimized alternative, the first thing you need to do is figure out what the alternatives are. And there are dozens of them. And so what I've done here is I've listed the top 12 most common platforms that I've seen. This is from tests that I've seen submitted to the site that I run, GuessTheTest, and it's from looking at, what testing platforms are being used. I'm just going to show you their pricing charts here so you can see. So here's A/B Tasty. They say some of the features and the benefits, but in order to get anywhere, you need to book a meeting with them. So not really too helpful. We don't really have a pricing chart we can compare. So we're going to eliminate A/B Tasty from our list of platform alternatives for now, because we really want to be looking at pricing charts for this exercise. So A/B Tasty is gone. What about Optimizely? Well, same thing. They don't really say all that much. And if you want to find out more, you have to fill in a demo request form. So Optimizely is also gone from our options. And that leaves us with VWO, which does have a pricing chart, which we're going to explore in more depth very shortly. Convert Experience also is a runner-up, I'd say, in terms of getting integrated very quickly. They've done a lot of work to try and make the transition from Google Optimize really seamless for experimenters, and they have a very transparent pricing chart. A little bit maybe confusing at first glance, but we're going to look at that in more detail and see what it offers. Some other players that are out there, Chameleon is kind of a mid-tier to enterprise platform. However, it only has a demo request form to fill out, so we're not going to look at it in our analysis today. Same thing with SiteSpect. It only has a request form to fill out, demo request form. So nothing to compare. We're not going to look at it. Now, StatSig is an interesting alternative. They do have a free and custom option, and we're going to look at their chart as a comparison because we actually have something we can compare and look at. Intellimize, which focuses on website personalization and segmentation, also only has a book a demo page, so we'll also eliminate them from our pricing comparison chart. Redeye, we can't get too far. We need to book a demo, so it's gone out of our comparison. OmniConvert, we're going to eliminate it. It's out of our price range. And Adobe Target, I'd say they have the worst demo request form. Powerful software, but it doesn't say anything about what you actually get from pricing, so we're going to eliminate them. And finally, Dynamic Yield, very good for personalization if that's what you're after, but not very much info. You have to request a demo. So of our vendors, we've eliminated most of them simply because they don't have pricing charts available. And of the ones remaining, we're looking specifically at either low cost or free trial plans that we can compare. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, if you have been running Google Optimize, one of the things that probably really attracted you to the platform and was really valuable for you was that it was free. And that opportunity is being taken away from you, which means you're going to have to pay to play now. If you want to experiment, if you want to test, you're going to have to pay for it for the most part. Paying for a testing tool, it really ups the ante, and it makes it so that if you are going to test, you need to be committed. And commitment to testing means that hopefully you're going to be running properly tests and getting accurate results. So you really have some skin in the game, because one of the criticisms of Google Optimize is that it opened up the testing arena for amateurs or experimenters who weren't you're really doing it properly, you're committed to testing. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that stance, but it is true that if you've got to pay, you will have more skin in the game, and you're only really going to want to test if it makes sense for you or your clients to do so. With that in mind, we're going to look at free plans that are available to us, which, as I outlined, are VWO, Convert, which has a free trial, and StatSig, which has a free option. And so we're going to look at these pricing plans and compare them and see what kind of sense we can make out of these pricing charts. So let's start by looking at VWO. The first thing you're probably going to notice when you go to the page is that there's an awful lot to decipher. Just in this above the fold view, and then as you go down and scroll down, it gets even more confusing because they list the pricing plans by different options, and then they have a whole bunch of FAQs that really ideally should be answered within their pricing charts. So you can see as you scroll that you can also click on any of these tabs, and that takes you to the different types of testing kind of services that they offer. We're going to start by looking just at the web testing. That's kind of their most basic plan. And we're going to start with it up to 50K monthly tracked users. You can see as you scroll and drag the slider further and increase traffic, the free plan goes away and the price goes up. So if you want to use the free plan, it means that you have a 50,000 user maximum on VW. That's for the starter plan. Convert has a similar kind of plan. Their community web plan is for 50,000 tested users per month. It's $99 a month, so it's not free. However, you can start a 15-day no obligation free trial without a credit card. So it gets you into the game and lets you make sure that the software is really a good fit for you. And then StatSig has a free plan, which is up to 500 million exposures or events per year, or the one that I would recommend is Pro, which is 5 million events per month. And Pro lets you do A/B testing, whereas the other plan is events, and it's maybe harder to set up A/B testing on it. So that's what we need to look at when we look at free alternatives. Now, within that, beyond just free, we need to think about the features that we need and what features are important to us. So let's take a look at features and compare some of these plans together. If you've been running tests for a while, you probably know exactly what features you need and what you were using in Google Optimize. But if you're newer to testing, you might not be totally clear what kind of features or functionality you should be looking for. So I've created a pretty comprehensive list of a lot of the features that you're going to want to look for and some of the dark patterns within those comparison charts to avoid. And dark patterns are persuasive tricks or elements that aren't really honest or straightforward, and they're not necessarily in the user's best interest. So we want to be avoiding falling into those dark pattern traps. So one of the most important features you're going to want to look at when you're sourcing a testing platform is, can the platform run multiple tests at once and multiple types of tests? Or is it restricted only to A/B testing? And a dark pattern that you're going to want to avoid when you're trying to answer this question is whether it defaults to a monthly or annual plan. So I'm going to use Convert as an example here. You can see it defaults to an annual plan. You have to click on this button to go to a monthly plan. And the price changes in some of these higher tier experiences when you go to monthly instead of annual. So not really a dark pattern, but something that can be a little bit persuasive potentially for the company, because usually they make more money and they have higher recurring revenue and customer lifetime value when somebody signs up for an annual plan. It looks cheaper too to present an annual plan by default. So you're going to want to be really aware of that. Looking at any pricing plan, eventually you probably will have to pay money for it. Is it annual or monthly cost? And in this case, if we're looking at the cheapest plan, which we can do a free trial for, annual is the same price as monthly, and Convert has really clearly outlined it here that it's $99 per month, no matter what. If we look at VWO, assuming 50,000 users, it's free. and we can assume that it's by month because it says monthly tracked users, but it doesn't really outline it here. So we're going to need to make assumptions, and assumptions can be dangerous. And then here it says free, and we know we can start for free, but we don't really know what that means beyond starting. And we can assume that it's on a monthly basis because it talks about 5M events per month. So we already have some question marks here that, if we decide to go with the platform, we're definitely going to want to confirm these things before we get locked into an actual plan or a pricing plan. Once we've determined if we're going monthly or annual, and we've kind of sourced out what we want to do, we want to look at the capabilities that the testing platform has. Can it do A/B testing, multivariate testing? Can it do split URL testing? These are all important considerations that you need to know. And so that requires going through the pricing charts and looking at what they actually offer within their alternatives. So here, Convert very clearly says unlimited number of tests, and it tells you on 3 active domains. And I really like the fact that as you hover over these links, it tells you what this feature means, and it shows you pretty clearly here what you don't get in the plan. So it's pretty descriptive. And if you hover down here, it will also show you that it offers A/B testing, split URL testing, mobile web testing. So it's pretty clear in terms of what you get. VWO, for the free plan, you can get A/B testing and split URL testing, as well as mobile web testing. It doesn't say if you can do MBT or more complex testing. So definitely a question you're going to want to find out if you decide to go with either of these platforms. And StatSig tells you that they can run ABN tests and multi-arm bandit tests, but doesn't really tell you much beyond that. So there's definitely question marks that are left, and these are the kinds of questions you're going to want to have answered if that kind of testing is important to you. The next thing you're going to want to consider is how well can you code or not code the variants that you're going to be putting in. If you have a developer you work with, you're probably going to find that for more complex tests, you're going to be actually coding in JavaScript, CSS, or HTML. But sometimes you just want to do a very quick change, maybe a button copy change, and there you can use the visual editor. So an important consideration is, do you have visual editor capabilities, and do you have coding capabilities within the platform? You can see here, Convert very clearly says they have both a visual editor and a coder. So those items can be checked off your list for Convert. VWO says the same thing. And with StatSig, we are not quite so clear, and it would be a question that we'd really have to ask. So that may be a game changer for you, whether or not you can visually edit or code. And as a result, it may discount StatSig out of the picture for you. So we're going to go ahead and close StatSig as our comparison, which leaves us just between VWO and Convert. So as we go on, we need to think about segmentation and targeting. Can we segment visitors? Can we target them very specifically? If we want to look just at traffic types or just at location, can we do that within the platform? It may be an important question for you depending on the type of testing that you're doing. One thing that Convert has done is they've created a very nice comparison chart directly against VWO. And we can look at VWO's starter versus Convert's web community. Now, as I mentioned, it's $99 a month, but you can start with a 15-day free trial. And we can go and we can compare directly across and see what it offers. And you can see here that the targeting and advanced targeting, as well as JavaScript targeting and weather targeting and geo-targeting, most of the targeting is not an option in the VWO starter plan, whereas it is in the Convert plan. So if targeting is important for you, that's an important consideration. Another thing is speed and potentially an anti-flicker. So flicker happens when you see that flash before the variant loads, and some platforms are running so that flicker may be created. That was definitely a problem with Google Optimize, and so they created an anti-flicker snippet. It was kind of problematic in itself, That problem now will go away if you're not using Optimize, but you want to make sure you're not introducing new problems when you choose a new platform. So thinking about speed and Flickr is really important. There are some platforms like SiteSpec, for example, says they're the fastest platform out there. And you're going to want to, with any testing platform, consider how quickly is it going to load, and is it going to slow down your site, and is it going to create flicker when you're testing. Both VWO and Convert offer anti-flicker protection as part of their plans, but for any plan you choose, you're going to want to make sure there's an anti-flicker snippet or solution already in place. And then finally, you're going to want to know about what kind of stats engine is being used, what kind of analytics and reporting capabilities are there, as well as what kind of checkers are there to make sure that the data is accurate and not reporting incorrect data. One of the important things that experimenters should be looking for is something called sample ratio mismatch, or SRM. Some platforms have an SRM checker built in. I happen to know Convert and Chameleon are two of the platforms that have it built in. Other platforms probably don't check for SRM. Not a game changer, but it means you're going to have to take that extra step of checking for SRM yourself before you declare any test results as completely trustworthy and actually implement them. So if you want to save yourself that step, option like Convert or Chameleon could be good for you because they have built-in SRM checkers and other features. So those are some of the most important features to consider when factoring in and choosing a new testing platform, but they're certainly not the only ones. Other features that are really important right now in this changing landscape of data and cookies and tracking are how first and third party cookies are being handled and what the platform is doing to mitigate the fact that first and third party cookies are eventually, probably in the next 3 to 5 years, going to become obsolete. And as a result, tracking is going to be increasingly more restricted and harder to do accurately. Now, the answer seems to be in server-side tagging or server-side tracking capabilities. So you want to make sure that the platform that you're using is at the very least thinking about server-side tagging or tracking. Ideally, they have some kind of alternative in place or some kind of solution. I happen to know offhand that SiteSpec and Chameleon are very progressive with server-side tracking. That's not a comprehensive list. If you're comparing VWO and Convert, that's definitely a question you're going to want to ask before you commit to the platform. Another thing to look for, especially if you're in a European country and doing a lot of testing, or in places like Canada where some of the laws are more restrictive, you want to make sure your data is safe. You may need to have data housed in a certain location. For example, the Canadian government can only do testing if the data stays within Canada. So you may have those kind of location-specific restrictions. You're definitely going to want to make sure that the testing platform is compliant with GDPR. Maybe you need additional security and compliance like HIPAA or SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. And so you're going to want to be looking for that when you're sourcing a new testing platform. And some of the platforms will tell you they meet stringent requirements, some of them won't. So looking at that and really making sure that you have all of those boxes checked off is going to be important to you. You're also going to want to consider customer support, because when you're switching to a new testing platform, there's always going to be questions that pop up. There's going to be different ways of doing things. It could be challenging for you. And you're going to want to make sure that when you need help, the help is there. So looking at what kind of onboarding and training support is provided, especially if you're transitioning from Optimize and committing to a new platform, your data is going to become a lot more locked in. You're not going to want to have to make that switch again once you've committed. So you want to make sure you're choosing the right platform after you've migrated everything. So assessing, is there training and support? Is there transition support that's offered? What's included with customer support? Do they offer phone, email, chat, 24-hour? Is it considered an add-on? Do you have to pay extra for it? Or is it part of the platform? And is it offered with the plan that you want? So we can look at that here with the comparison chart that has been created. And, you're going to pay more for VWO to get approximately the same type of support that Convert's plan will offer you. I happen to know from using Convert, they do have excellent customer support. They get back to you very quickly and usually with helpful answers. So support and security, two things you're definitely going to want to assess. And taking a look, if you whittled your option down to VWO and Convert, at this chart and really going through and seeing what's available to you is going to be important. All right, so what is the best platform? Well, as you saw, it's based really on your own personal needs, what you're using testing for, and what requirements and features you have for testing. But I'd suggest that a great place to start is by looking at the Convert VWO alternative, because both plans offer either reasonably priced or free to start. With most of your testing needs met, and you can go through and very easily compare and look at what features are available to you and what features are not available to you. In terms of dark patterns to be aware of, I find this chart is very straightforward. There's a lot to decipher, and could maybe benefit from some headlines breaking up the sections, but I don't see anything malicious or tricky going on here. It's just factual information that's presented in a very clear way, and a lot of the work has been done for you. So I would definitely consider reviewing, and if you're up for starting a free trial, either VWO or Convert could be a good option for you. But it really is based on your personal preference and what your needs are. One thing I really like about Convert in particular, as I mentioned, is the customer support. And you can start a 15-day free trial with no obligations, so you can get your feet wet, make sure you're happy with the platform, and from there move to a full plan if that's what makes sense for you. It is a personal decision, and if you need more help figuring out what works best for you based on your individual needs, you're welcome to reach out anytime. I'm here to help you and give you a hand. And otherwise, I hope this presentation has been helpful for you, and your transition from Google Optimize to your new testing platform is seamless. So thanks very much for your time today. Feel free to reach out, Deborah or Malley at GuessTheTest or GuessTheTest.com. Thanks so much. Bye.